Settled it. Oh no, I'm peaking now. I'm peaking.
Have you heard that song? Yeah. It's called "Oh Superman." Look it up. It's brilliant.
Does it go exactly like that?
Yeah. Please look it up.
Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert, Ian Barnard, American retro design expert, Dustin Lee, and the ever-talented South African illustrator, Lisa Glans. In this week's episode, we're doing something a little different. We had a couple of design topics lined up to chat about, but ended up getting totally lost in a discussion amongst ourselves about social media, how to build a loyal fan base around your creations, and the mindset around chasing likes and followers. It's a little on the marketing side of things, but so relevant for so many creatives out there. So we hope you don't mind being a fly on the wall to this chat between us. Without further ado, let's get into the show. So this week we're talking about engagement around your creative work, mainly social media, but I guess this could be kind of anywhere online where people are encountering your work. And guys, I mean, I know this affects me. This affects you, right? Mm-hmm. We were talking right before this episode about getting people to care, about feeling terrible when you don't get enough likes or enough comments on social media, and how whilst that shouldn't matter, often it does, and it does get to you, and you think, why do people care less about this particular piece of work? Is it a trend? Are people losing interest? You get all of these insecurities. And so we thought today, rather than getting to the heart of those insecurities and putting you in a stronger, more stable psychological position, we'd actually just desperately try and help you to get more likes in the first place and buy into the social media machine.
Yeah, man, that's what people really want. So
exactly.
That's what I want.
The likes. Yeah,
that's what I want. Let's give it to them.
It's trendy at the moment to say it's not about the likes, even though it is about the likes. But
exactly.
Should we put that out on a quote card just to try and get some likes?
I'll let Tom talk about it. But before we start talking, Tom, you were telling like perfect reasons why it's so good to get likes or comments. So I mean, it is like actually important. It sounds like you're saying
it is. So I'm going to tell a little story, listeners, and this is relevant to some of the ventures and creative online ventures which I've done in the last few years, because I had to learn this lesson the hard way. Because for many years, I bought into this thing of it's all about how many readers you get, it's all about how much traffic you get on your website, how many likes you get on social media, and that's what I was taught. And so what I did was I created something, a blog about Photoshop with that in mind. And I thought I want to try and get as much traffic as possible. And so I did everything I could. And that was the only thing I focused on. And I wasn't really thinking about my audience. I wasn't really thinking in terms of proper content strategy. I wasn't thinking in terms of the bigger picture. I was just chasing traffic. And if my traffic went down 1 month, I felt horrible. If it continued to grow, I felt great, even though nothing directly came of that, which was a benefit to me. And it got to the point where I would get a great month on the back of a bunch of traffic from StumbleUpon. I don't know if that's still going. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
So something might go viral on StumbleUpon, and I'd feel so great temporarily. I'd think, this piece I did, this tutorial I did showing a Photoshop outcome, it's gone viral, and I just got like 40,000 visits in a day, and that's made my month, and that's the best thing ever. And nothing will come of it. And for anyone who's run a blog or looked at any of the stats on anything like that, StumbleUpon drives some of the lowest quality traffic imaginable, where the average view time is about 4 seconds. The bounce rate is huge, which means how many people pretty much instantly leave that page and never come back. And so it would be a flash in the pan. No one was really consuming the content. No one cared. They just, flash onto the page, go, oh, great. And then I think how StumbleUpon worked actually is it's like channel surfing on TV, right? So
Yeah,
it'd flash
definitely.
up for a second, they'd be like, oh, next, but it counts as a view. So stupid young me was there celebrating my StumbleUpon traffic and my monthly traffic and just chasing that desperately every month. And it was only when I really got to the point of trying to make a living and I had a membership aspect of the site and I was trying to sell ads and I was trying to do all of this stuff. And I'd even try and, launch new ventures on the back of it and get feedback from my community. And whilst I got a little bit of that from my core readers, the swathes of traffic I got nothing from. I got no engagement because none of them cared. It was just meaningless numbers. And so I started learning about this stuff and I got some mentors who really started preaching, it's more about having a small tribe of people that care. It's more about building up an audience. And I know this sounds very business related and marketing related, and it is, but it's so true if you're an artist or designer as well, putting your work out into the world. Think about building up this core loyal audience, this following, this tribe around what you do and people who actually love it and care about it. And as soon as I went into that mindset, I realized I had a small number of these people. And these were people who'd followed me the entire time I was doing this blog. I would go and do new ventures and they'd jump straight into that. They'd email me. They'd be chatting with me on Skype. Like they really, really cared about me and they were so supportive. Shout out to one of them who I think is also now a listener of this podcast. So she's been with me for like 10 years, Sue Hall. I don't know if you guys know her. Like lovely lady. And I realized that the Sue Halls of the world and the loyal people who are in your community and in your tribe, one of those is worth much more than even 100,000 readers stumble upon visits or random, bits of traffic and people who just don't care and aren't going to stick around and aren't going to engage and don't really give you anything. And it was such a psychological shift for me and it was so freeing because instead of chasing those big numbers, I stopped caring about them. I had a newsletter and I started just coming up with big segments of people who hadn't opened an email in months and just deleting them. And so whilst before I do anything to get another 1,000 email subscribers, suddenly I'd be cutting like 10,000 email subscribers like they were nothing and just dropping them because even though it was technically thousands of people, they were worth nothing to me. And that's not to undermine my readers, but these are people who truly, didn't probably want to hear from me. They weren't engaged, like it just wasn't for them. And I started going all in on the people who did care. And so emailing them a bit more and making the time to jump on a Skype call with them. And that has been the biggest shift in anything I've ever done. And it's something I carry with me to this day. And I see so many designers in particular, like I've been hearing from people on my Instagram recently messaging me about this, and I hear it from listeners of the show, and everyone, like you guys were talking about this, you're super experienced, and you guys were just having the conversation with me about chasing like likes and followers and all that stuff right before we recorded this. And it's just something I'm really passionate about. So I'd love to know what you guys think.
I think immediately my first question about this. So I've always believed this works. I'm just not good at it. People don't like me a whole lot oftentimes. I lack
what do you
social
mean?
skills.
You kidding
What do you
me?
mean by that?
I'm kind of joking.
You're my mum's favorite on the show, and I include myself in that.
Isn't that Chris Farley thing where he's like, people might say I'm not a people person or that I'm hard to deal with. But anyways, okay, go on a tangent. But my question is, after all that, when you interact with people, can you give like more than a few examples of the types of interactions? Because I suspect the interactions that are creating these relationships are not you telling people how awesome your stuff is and they should go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So can you like paint a picture of some like multiple interactions and how they go and how they develop into a relationship that they support you?
Yeah, like of course. So I'm not gonna point out the obvious, which is you guys. You could have been a visitor on Design Cuts and that was it, or you could have been an email. But now we are obviously gonna invariably meet up in real life. We do this podcast every week. We're all buddies now, Like that's a very cool thing. But I'll give you another example. Meg, we featured Meg on the show. So Meg now knows all of us. I message her, we comment on each other's Instagram stories. Like, hopefully we'll get to meet in real life at a certain point. Featured her extensively on the show, inspired her through the show to start a drawing challenge. Like, that's a real connection, to the point where if one of us needs help or asks the other one for something, we would probably feel obliged to help.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
How do you make time for, like, what's your time cut of that? Those seem in like amazingly high leverage, but they seem like extremely unscalable, which is not a problem. I'm just curious, like, how much time do you use doing that in a day or a week as a percentage compared to other things, so I could kind of figure out if I was going to do that, how often I should do that.
First of all, if anyone can hear, we're having a big thunderstorm here in the UK. So I apologize if it sounds like we've got dramatic music in the background.
It's getting like nefarious.
Well, Dustin, my answer would be is... yeah, I mean, it's really do what you can. So in the early days, you guys know I was doing 100-hour weeks, and a lot of it was that kind of stuff. And that was getting design cuts off the ground. So that was my objective. Now I'm not doing that much of it, but I'm just getting into launching a new show about entrepreneurship soon. And so I'm ramping it up a little bit. In your case, I would say do what you can. And when it reaches breaking point, you have to decide if you want to hire people around you to let you scale that, because it is patently unscalable. But the whole point is, you would rather have that with 10 or 20 or 50 people where you have real relationships than chasing the 100,000 people who don't care about your work or what you're doing.
Is the value that obviously just purely for relationship? I'm sorry I'm dominating, but this will be my last question, and I will zip it for a while. Is this pure? Obviously, the relationship is valuable. Just having connections with people makes work better, makes it more enjoyable, more fulfilling. Like, no BS. That's like totally true, right? But also, we're running a business. So do you find that those people tend to buy constantly, and that's value? Is the value that they buy and also constantly share what you're doing and tell other people about it? Or how do you find like that one person truly gives you leverage?
No, I get it. So I think first of all, you can't just be nice for the sake of that. And it's not like, oh, you haven't bought in 3 weeks, so I'm going to stop being nice to you.
Yes.
You need to do it without having real expectation, and it needs to come from a genuine place. But I think statistically speaking, in terms of those 100,000 being worthless, we all know that the greatest fans come from word of mouth and referral, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not that you need to have one-on-one conversations with 2,000 people, but you can find 2,000 people who truly care about what you're producing by looking after and befriending 50 who then tell their friends who tell their friends. And because the origin is so close-knit and warm and lovely, what spills out from that, whilst it might be diluted to an extent, is so much more powerful and so much more personal than the stumble upon traffic or the win a free iPad if you engage with my creative work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also, even if you are not at that relationship level, in other words, this isn't somebody that you interact with regularly, just if you're going to only interact with them once, if you can make it in a friendly, speak to them like they are your friend, I think that also helps, because often when I get a review on Etsy or wherever on my website, all the other places that I sell, and you get such a nice response saying, it was so nice to deal with Lisa. She was so friendly. She was this. There's this automatic kind of like friendship, even though you've like literally had one email with them. That to me counts for so much, because not only do I feel like I've at least pleased the customer, not only with the product but also their interaction, and then I know that they're going to feel comfortable coming back.
100%. And the way I think about it is, it's the same as compounding, right? So if you put a bit of money in the bank, the compound interest, theoretically, or like if you're investing it rather, scales massively over time. And I'm
Yeah.
not like super into financial stuff, but I understand that basic theory of you put a little in and over time it can lead to tremendous upside and gains
Yeah.
purely through the compounding effect. And I think it's the same where you think of every friendly interaction in that way. In an isolated instance, it doesn't count for that much. But when you have years of that and thousands of those interactions
it
and
adds
each
up.
one stacks up,
Yeah.
then it starts to compound over time and lead to something bigger.
Yeah. And I definitely agree that it has to be genuine, because people sniff that out. If it's just like a fake, like if you need to genuinely want to help that person, and yeah.
100%. And you have tons of people who adore your bunnies and your drawings. And like you have, I think as creatives, we need to realize that we can actually cultivate a fan base the same way that bands do. And just because you're not Michael Jackson or Beyonce or Drake, can't believe I put Drake in the same sentences.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know what I mean? Just because you're not a superstar, you might be the band which tours around your local area and manages to make a living doing it and has a rabid fan base who attend every show and scream and, buy you drinks after the show and party with you. And we can think in similar terms as artists. We can build a fan base of people who go nuts about the stuff we produce, who want to buy it, who share it, who tell their friends, who engage with it, who stroke our egos by giving us feedback, who tell us if we've lost our way. Like all of that stuff goes for artists. And I just think everyone's out there chasing how many likes they get or how many followers they get. And really it needs to be about cultivating that fan base.
Can I ask you, Tom, what about, like, I'm just picturing of, an average designer's Instagram count with 250, 500 followers, say.
Yeah.
Not getting much interaction. What could they practically do to grow that interaction, to grow that?
Message every single one of those 250 people.
Well, if they're just the friends because they've just taken them off Facebook. How do you, how do you do it? So say they're just your mates and if you're just starting out, how do you get people to,
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, I think stuff like Instagram, as you know, because you're the Instagram king in the group.
Yeah, but the thing is, you say that, though, you don't know how many of that, my following are like what you've been saying. I could have just like 1% are actually following me because they're my tribe, as you're calling it, and then following me, because they love what I do and they.
Okay, here's a question. So, how many followers have you got?
235,000.
Okay, how would you feel if that went down to 30,000, but you got the same amount of engagement that you get now?
Pretty good.
Really?
Well, the only time numbers, the thing is, like the numbers game, there's a sort of saying, it's not about the numbers, it's about, like you're saying, but for some brands, they see the numbers and they will approach you because of the numbers.
I completely agree, but I think that's short-sighted of them, and I think there's a shift where they're paying more attention to the engagement because they realize how easily followers can be bought.
Yeah. The thing is, like you say, because when I did a project one, they said, could we see the stats? So they wanted to see, once they'd done the promotion, to see the stats of it, because obviously there is the numbers, but there's also, like you say, there's the interaction, there's a click through, the stuff like that.
This is something like I've become really obsessed with over the last few years. And to answer your previous question, I think, say you've got 150,000 followers, which is a number a lot of listeners may have, and maybe 100 of them are friends from Facebook and 50 of them are people that have discovered you through the discoverability of something like Instagram with hashtags and related posts and so on. So maybe you've got 50 people who kind of vaguely care about what you're doing, but they're not true fans. Messaging those 50 people, maybe say, right, I'm going to message 10 people a day for 5 days, and one-on-one reaching out and just literally not pitching anything, not pushing anything, making it all about them, getting to know them, commenting on their stuff more, building a relationship.
Can you give us examples? Because there's of what those interact like.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so
say someone's just doing, just posting. Okay, say one of your fans is another designer, and they're just doing brochure work and maybe some logo design for stuff. What would you? I'm just trying to put, see what. I'm just really nailing it down so people have a really clear thing of when they go away, they can go, okay, I'm going to message. Because like there's some other people say, use the DM, message people, build those interactions. But like for me, I have to have it all planned out exactly, because someone said,
I would say you're at a different level. So I would have a different
but don't worry about me, just like
you. But yeah, for the people starting out, I lump myself in this category because obviously I put my focus into building design cuts, but I haven't taken my personal stuff seriously until next month when I launch this new show. So I've still got less than 1,000 followers, right? And so I'm starting to pay attention to who are the people who care more in that group and who are the people that care less. And I wish the people that cared less weren't there, to be honest. I'd rather have 100 followers than 1,000, but they all cared. And so I'm looking for the people that, they're always watching my stories, they're occasionally leaving a comment, they always like my posts, etc. And then I am going and starting to engage more on their posts and get to know them better. And I wouldn't say there's any kind of like textbook approach for this. You have to take it as it comes. So I mentioned Meg before, like, we've featured her on the show, but I find her work really cool. So it's not a great wait for me to go and like follow her feed and comment on her work and encourage her. And on the back of that, I've been advising her on creating a product on the back of her drawings, and I'm helping with feedback for that and offering value in my time and experience and how to come up with compelling preview graphics for that product. So I'm just trying to give value without any expectation of anything back.
Here's an example. Okay, what if you went on their feed and it was just pictures of their food?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of
you seem to have a real hang up. You know what? I have to tell you really quick. You've said that so many times that literally every time I go on Facebook, I'm afraid to post something because I'm just that guy that posts food like Ian talks about. Like, no joke. Like, you've like literally scarred me.
I didn't mean to. And what I want to know is like the worst case scenario. Like, how do you sometimes I find it really hard, because for me, the way I get engagement is through being really honest in one of my posts. I try and make a good piece and then I explain why I've done that or a story behind why I'm saying those words. And then that starts the interaction of the comments, and then I try and reply to as many as I can.
Okay, so I'll give you an example for me, right? I know you and Dustin are pretty religious, right?
Yeah.
But I'm personally not, and that's cool. We all have our different belief systems, but I don't want to be inauthentic or disingenuous. So I've had followers who will engage with my stuff. I will go to their profile to go and engage, and they'll be putting out very hyper religious content, which is great for them. But I don't want to comment being like, yeah, I totally agree. Like, when it's not something which I really know, which is me, so that would be inauthentic. But I can certainly message that person and say, hey, I really appreciate you always engaging with my content. I really appreciate like you following what I'm doing. Is there anything I can put out that would help you, or anything you'd particularly love to see, and get into a conversation about the work?
Let's see, that's perfect. That's the nugget. Because like for me, I'm not very good at writing, so I need to know, not word for word, but roughly what if I was just starting out, what I should be saying.
So two things, right? So it's genuine appreciation and thanks, followed by what can I do for you?
Yeah. So that's brilliant. That's two bits of advice that can really, then people can run with that. They can do, like you say, they can send like 5 a day or something like that. And if it's content that they can really interact with, say it's another designer, they really like what they do, or they're an illustrator and they really love that style. That's, like you say, for, when you and Meg were interacting, it was easier because you liked her style of work.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to, if a lot of your followers are like, posting stuff that you either don't like or don't agree with, how you get over that hurdle, even though they're really supportive of your work. So those two things are really helpful, I think.
So let me give you like a mindset shift. Make it more about, say you've got 50 followers, it needs to be more about how do I build relationship with those 50 followers rather than worrying about the next 50 and neglecting the current 50. It's also the mindset shift that smaller is better in many ways, because the less people you have who follow your creative work, the deeper you can go in your interactions with them. So if you only have 5 followers, but they're all really passionate about what you're doing, then Ian, if you only had 5 followers, you could be like doing personalized like lettering for each one of them, which would make their life, if you're like inscribing their name and doing messages and, hey, here's a birthday card for your dad because I know his birthday's coming up and I've actually drawn this custom thing for you, which also is work on my feed. When you're trying to do that with 50 people, you can't apply that level of time. And when you're doing it for 5,000, you definitely can't apply that level of time. So people need to actually harness and be grateful for the small audience, cater more and go all in for them, but actually realize that it's a blessing to have that small audience, because when it gets bigger, as it has at Design Cuts, trust me, that's harder, where we've got 250,000 people in our audience and we've got a full team here which need managing to look after as many of those people as possible, and you're trying to keep everyone happy all the time and spin all the plates. That's really hard. So you kind of miss the days of, we had 50 people and we could be best friends with them all.
But I suppose if you, like you say, if you do that at the beginning, it's harder to come in at, it's if you were both, you're where you are to 250,000 people to look after. If you came in straight away, you would just be overwhelmed and not be able to do it.
Yeah.
Where, it's still hard work, but if you learn, if you learn from a small scale and build it up, it's easier than just coming in a large scale and just trying to do it and not doing it and it would all fall apart. So I think starting small helps, because it means that you're just adding on top. And
although even when you're as big as you are, there's ways around being big where you can just filter down and almost start a new audience within your audience. So if you've got over 200,000 followers, simply saying, go to this web page, which has a form on with 20 fields in it they have to fill out to get in touch with you. And they're explaining what kind of content they want to see, why they want to be part of this small group, blah, blah, blah. Most people won't watch the story. Out of the ones that watch the story, most won't bother engaging and going to the form. Out of the ones that go to the form, most won't bother filling it out. And most of them won't fill it out properly. So out of your 200,000 plus people, you might end up with 50 or 100 people who bother to go through all those steps. And then suddenly you've got your core audience that you can start focusing on and not worry so much about the rest of them.
And that the problem comes when you do that and no one fills it out. They're like, oh, no, got me right here.
Yeah.
All right, I've got one more for you. I think going viral sucks for the most part because it dilutes your loyal following. And we've had this a few times, like on our Facebook page. And I think we got something like 40,000 or maybe 30,000 additional likes in a few days. And it was one particular like meme style piece, and it blew up and it got seen by something like 10 million people. Wow. And we got tens of thousands of likes, and it was really exciting. And I was like boasting to my friends, we went viral. And you know what happened? We actually got less engagement because the new people weren't that engaged because they were there because of a meme. Facebook recognized with their algorithm that when a smaller percentage of your total audience engage with your post, the post must be less interesting. So they limit the reach, and less people who were from the original tribe get to see it. So the whole thing basically gets watered down and diluted. So you kind of celebrate this big increase in audience size, but actually less people see and engage with your content and what you're creating than they did before. Yep. So I've learned I actually don't want to go viral. And if anything ever does go viral, it's like, oh no, I'm going to have all these new people discovering me who probably aren't going to care that much.
They're not
as
interested.
If I had the loyal original group and they were just telling their friends and it was spreading naturally.
It's a really hard thing because, like, I totally agree with that. The sort of watered downness, but it's bad for your audience and bad for your engagement. But going viral can bring you some awesome opportunities. Because like if my chili pepper and the rest of the vegetable gang hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have got onto the BBC and done an interview and been to, I never thought I'd step into the BBC offices because of something I
guess they all have their purposes. Like everything's a tool, like it has its place.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very short lived though. That's what I'd say. The viral, unless you can capitalize on it, and get that momentum, because what virality is that word?
Yeah.
brings is an increase in traffic. Like one of my videos on YouTube all of a sudden got featured on the sort of discover part of YouTube and went up like in a week to 1 million views. And my subscriber went up, and for 1 month the income was actually quite good. Like it's normally like $60.
Well, I think the interesting part is that oftentimes when things do go viral, and Tom, tell me if you don't think this is true, but I feel like this does happen. It's because you'll see articles about little businesses doing cool things, and all of a sudden they're on some big site and they get tons of traffic. And oftentimes it seems like it happens because a writer for that site was a loyal follower who felt like they had a relationship with that person and were like, I like this person, they're doing something neat, and I just happen to be a writer here and I want to share it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it actually starts from a small relationship, but that person just happens to have a large reach. Kind of like what you were saying in the beginning.
Yeah, and there's different levels of virality. So if, I don't know, you did an incredibly heartfelt personal post and it went viral and people were sending you heartfelt messages and connecting on a human level, that's great. That's very different from like a stumble upon influx of traffic on a meme.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we could all get 1 million views. Like Ian, if you start doing lettering around like some Hollywood starlet, like half naked or something, I'm sure you might get more views on that thumbnail on Instagram, but they're going to be, quite flaky views.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also that thing of like if you get an influx of, say you're a one-man show and you get an influx of orders and you can't fulfill them, your whole brand takes a knock because you're not fulfilling, your orders and you're not getting them out in time. So those people who ordered from you probably won't come back because you gave them bad service, so that there's like, I don't know.
I've known people where that's happened, and they've enlisted their friends and they've been like working around the clock to fulfill orders and stuff like that, and that's great. If you can stop it from falling over, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
And that can be a good platform. But I just think it's very underrated to build slowly and deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
some of my favorite companies, and
Yeah.
these are very creative companies, they've been going like 10, 15 years, and they've just been very slowly chipping away. They haven't been looking for that massive inflection point.
Mm.
I'd like to share a tumor on marketing that I think is happening right now that is like this weird mutated offset of what you're talking about, Tom. If you're a designer listening to this, or any of us here, I'm sure you've gotten those messages in your inbox where it sounds like a real person and they say, hey, I think I could really help you with your marketing, or I think you're not hitting as many customers as you could, and I have some things I'd love to talk about, like your plans for the year. Like, have you guys received messages that are kind of vague like that, where it seems like a real person writing you?
Yeah.
Loads.
I receive these constantly. I mean, literally, I receive them 3 or 4 times a day. And at first, it was just a few, and it's blowing up now. It's actually, to me, seems like it's a workaround to not have someone opt into an email list because it feels like a personal email, but really, it's just an autoresponder sent to very specific people. And people will send me these, and then like it's clear that it'll say after 3 days, if they haven't responded, send them a follow-up. It's never personal to me other than saying my name or my business name. And I'm like, I would never listen to that. Yet if someone writes me and says, hey, I've been following this, I know you from the Honest Designers show, I bought a couple of your products and I really like them, I think this is super neat and I wanted to show you my work. And by the way, I have something that I think would be useful for your business. I will listen to that all day because it's a human being and it's clear they've invested time and they're interested in me, and that makes me interested in them. And that person might only get 1 or 2 people a week because they invest the time in it. The other people are like mass spamming people, and you can smell that from a mile away, man.
You can. You
You
can.
And I think, unfortunately, it's that mindset that a lot of people are falling into. And I've met so many creatives recently, and they'll be showing off their Instagram with a bunch of purchase followers, and they'll be talking about the anxiety they develop around receiving likes. And I think it's like a cultural shift, like you say, Dustin, and it's really damaging and it's really scary. And I know this is primarily, of course, a creative podcast, and I know this is a bit more on the social media and the marketing side of things, but I think it is important to address because we also know how close designers' egos are tied to their work. And so I feel like we are particularly susceptible as a community to this damaging phenomenon of being caught on the hamster wheel of social media validation.
Yeah, so true.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to sort of, with going back to sort of the personal aspect and making it personal, that, you know, people love it when it's about them. You know, we love it when we get the attention. So if you have a skill that can, like for me, for instance, you know, I've trained myself up and I now have the skill of writing people's names in a beautiful script. And so, you know, me writing someone's name for them off the cuff, you know, not if they write to me, I can you write my name, please? And it's just, I wish I get quite a lot of. We say no.
Can you imagine?
But if you out of the blue or you know, write a name, it's a bit like, you know, with the Coca-Cola having your name on the bottle sort of thing. It's a very personal thing. You know, or someone doing something where it's a bit more custom. They to them it's something that they will then share to other people. And so that's a way of sort of
what I would love to see with your feed, and I know this probably wouldn't be possible, although it could be, every single day you could do a request. And so you could say, tell me an object you want me to letter on and your name. And so, you know, it could be like Bob on a tennis racket handle, and then Sally on a beach ball, and whatever it ends up being. And then on each post, people would leave comments to try and be in the next one. And then it could just perpetuate itself where suddenly you're getting more comments than you ever knew what to do with. You're picking one at random. People feel part of this community. And then the ones that get picked feel particularly honored and share it around. But even if you don't get picked, it's kind of fun to be, you know, in with a chance. And like, I would participate in that and I would want to. And if you picked Tom on a guitar or whatever it might be, I'd be like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever.
or then sent it to you.
Yeah, exactly. I'd pay for it.
I don't think you would bring this up, Tom. So I'll mention it. And Marco, if this is too personal or too much detail, you can edit it out if Tom wants you to. But so for me, when we met, Tom, you messaged me quite a bit and we talked, and eventually I did a deal with you and it was so good. And you were like, I want to keep a long-term relationship going. You stuck to your word. You kept that long-term relationship going. But then, like, you did all sorts of things nobody else did. Before that, I used another design site. They had a one-off conversation with me. It was very transactional. They didn't respond quickly. I didn't know how I was going to get paid. But I did the one with you, and then you did another deal with me, and another deal with me, and another deal with me. Then Christmas came around. You sent food, like, to my family in a gift box. Then the next Christmas came around. You sent family to my food in a gift box. Then, like,
family to your food?
Your family to your food. Oh, that'd be good.
I mean, yeah, food always like wins people over. But then, like, when I like needed help with parts of my business, you got on phone calls with me, didn't ask me any favors or anything. You told me tips to make more money for myself and my business. And then, like, and then my birthday just came, and at the last minute, you took time out of all of your staff who you have to pay's time to make a video for me that ended up being probably the best thing I got for my birthday. Was from, I mean, we're friends, but you know, we're also like very much like business partners. it was one of the best things I got. I shared that thing so much. It was so cool. But so like when someone writes me and asks if I want a deal or something like that, do you want to do a deal with these guys? Do you want to partner with these guys? I I kind of like laughed to myself and I'm like, no, I'm doing it with them.
No,
And you know,
exactly.
don't wait around. And
Yeah.
it's because the relationship is really strong. So I guess I'm saying that because obviously you're not going to advertise all that stuff and edit it out if you don't want everyone to know all of those kind of things you've done.
No, it's cool. Like most of that's
but-
public anyway. But
Okay, yeah.
but like, I appreciate the kind words a lot, but I think it's important
that's
to
not even
know.
all of it. You've done other stuff too. I can't even literally think of all the stuff that you've done. And because of that, you're just like, I don't do deals with other people, period. I just don't do it.
Exactly. And you know, to add to that, it basically, you don't even want to bother with anybody else because because Tom has set the bar so high, because everything you've just said he did with me. So I'm like, I was so excited and amped, like all the stuff he helped me with. But if anybody else reaches out, because Tom has set the bar so high, it's like, buddy, go back to school. You need to learn how to like deal with people because you're clueless.
I promise I'm not paying these guys to say this, by the way.
But it's so rare that, and here's the great thing for people listening. It's so rare that people do that if you're willing to do it, you have a tremendous advantage, because it's not that it's hard in the sense of like, it's not hard in the sense of it takes some sort of college level skills of, a master's degree to be nice. You just have to be willing to like take the time to think about other people. And then you're just like, hey, like how many people am I going to meet in my life that are going to be like this? Why on earth would I like jeopardize this relationship when I have this person who is like a positive relationship in my life?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's personal as well, because like every year I get like a birthday card from HSBC, the bank, and it's like it's just been printed off, and it says "Happy birthday, Ian! Thanks for banking with us" or something. And I'm like, this is actually worse than if you just said nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Just be quiet.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
It just feels like, oh, this is just slightly embarrassing sort of thing.
Banks are so far behind on that kind of stuff.
I know. And it's just like, but, and the thing is, you have to be truly authentic. Otherwise, people are not stupid. They see through that. And they can see through when you're just doing it with an ulterior motive rather than just for caring.
Exactly. Yeah.
They really can. And so many people pop up on like YouTube ads for me where they're like, hey, I sold my business and now I'm helping others with their businesses, and not to make money, just because I'm super passionate about helping other people.
But join my course for $1,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Join our course and sign up for
No, you missed saying off that, Tom. It says, you might, you found me in my back garden, as there's like a massive swimming pool and
like models handing them whiskey and stuff. Oh, it's ridiculous, and people can see it a mile off. And like, obviously, I consider you guys great partners and friends, and so we want to go above and beyond. But genuinely, I love helping people with this stuff purely from the perspective of just being a geek about it. I just love geeking out about it. So when my best friend's brother starts talking about doing a creative business, suddenly I'm having dinner with the guy and we're scribbling on napkins just because it interests me. Or at my local coffee shop, I'm like telling them how to design graphics for their Facebook page, even though they don't really want me to, and they're not interested, and they're like, who is this guy? And so for you guys as friends and partners, of course I want to jump on a call and help Lisa redesign her website, which is now performing better than ever for her, I've heard. And Dustin, like, better. I want to help with email marketing because I'm such a geek. I care about that stuff. And the message being, again, I know this is very like markety right now, and I apologize to the listeners for that, but I think the main takeaway is it has to be genuine. You have to find the thing where you just can't shut your mouth about it because it's just pouring out of you. And you have to be honest and genuine and have that intent to help others truly with getting nothing back. And the ironic thing is that if you do that, that's when you do get stuff back. It's like a bonus.
It's so true. It's like unexpected.
Yeah, we know, I think other people are going to know soon. You're doing a show Little sounds so demeaning. You're doing a cute little show, Tom.
Did I tell you guys that's what my best friend in the whole world does all the time to wind me up? He's like, "Oh, you're dabbling on your little computers, running your little business," and that. Like, he does it all the time.
That's not what I meant at all. Anyways, you're doing a show, I think, which is all about this kind of stuff. Where can people check it out if they want to hear like a bunch more about this kind of stuff?
Oh, that was a plug.
I'm trying. I mean, people are curious.
Well,
they would love to know, I'm sure.
Well, first of all, if you've got $1,000 spare, then sign up for my course, and I'll walk you through my Lamborghinis. No, so this is not at all off the ground yet. But if people are actually interested in marketing, whether it's for their creative business or their design work or just in general, they care about entrepreneurship, freelancing and all that kind of stuff, then my Instagram is Tom Ross Media, and I would say that's the best place for now because it's not publicly available. And if you DM me on there and want to know more, then yeah, you'll be part of the early tribe for that show, and then it's going to be cool. I'm trying not to give too much away, but it's going to be really crazy. I think I'm looking forward to it. Anyway.
I think it would be really useful for people because like something you just don't have, like when you become like, especially for like freelancers, is that you just want to create stuff and make nice designs, but then you have to like, well, I've got to advertise myself or, you know, promote myself or market myself, and you're like, how do you do that? You know, it's just
build a fan base. I swear, like that's the missing piece. Everyone gets fed all this nonsense about what marketing supposedly looks like, but it's all of the meaningless metrics. It's all of the nonsense. It's all of the tricks and hacks and systems and funnels to be applied to their business. And if it was that easy, everyone would just slap a system on top of their business and it would be fine. But it's not. You've got to make people care, and that has to come from an authentic place. And
like you say, if there's only like, you know, you only have to have like 50 people who really want, maybe you're selling a product, maybe it's like a font, you know, like if you have 50 people who care and you release one font a month at $10, you know, that's $500 that month. And, you know, every month, and you look at that over a year, you know, that's $6,000 just from, you know, that small tribe of people. So, you know, it's just thinking about, okay, if you can get that interaction, get that core people, then, you know, you only have to release something small every month, and that can be, you know, quite a big part of your income, really.
I mean, I've literally seen people with $10,000 Kickstarter campaigns where the goal was 10,000, and the entire thing was practically built purely from Facebook messaging friends, not doing hard sells with them, just because they always do that and they always have conversations through Facebook Messenger. And then they would just in the conversations be like, by the way, I'm doing this thing. It didn't feel like a ShamWow sell. It was just bringing it up. And they made significant money towards their goals because of that.
Yeah, 100%. And genuine. I think what can be daunting is when people see the big numbers. So they might see a following. Ian, like I'm going to use this hypothetically. Obviously, I don't know how many of your audience are engaged, etc. But they might see an audience like Ian's and be like, wow, I could never get to 200,000 followers. That feels impossible. Yeah, but if they knew that maybe 1,000 of those were like super engaged and went nuts for everything Ian did, well, maybe that starts to feel more possible. It's like, well, maybe if I spend a few years trying to get 1,000 people to care and don't worry about the 199,000, that feels doable. Because to get to 1,000, well, you start with 50, you start with 10, like go from there.
Funny thing is, I think a lot of people that do have these big followings, that's how it happened.
Yeah, it is.
No, it is. It's organic growth. And as Ian said, it's like, it just takes off. Hits the thing. But if you just apply what we're talking about on social media and you apply it to running, you know, like what we all do for a living, it's that whole thing of creating products for a specific audience rather than trying to create products for masses. It's the same thing in a way, really, because, you know, like you'd rather have an engaged audience, whether you're a designer or an artist, whatever, that will really want to buy your stuff, rather than, trying to compete with like the mass, market out there where you're not really getting any traction because you just look like everybody else. So yeah, I guess you could apply that to, product strategy as well.
And people buy into the why of you doing stuff, not just because of what you're selling. And so, if they know you and they know, like, Dustin was saying about Tom, the quality of the design cuts bundles we know is much higher than anyone else. And people will realize that if you're consistently pushing out good products and they like the products and they like the story why you can't the products, then they're going to buy from you rather than buying from some mass marketed thing down the road. So
it doesn't feel,
the advantage,
it doesn't feel personal. It doesn't feel
perfect example of this related. I'm sorry, who was talking? I didn't mean to
you.
Dustin,
like a steamroller, just came.
I feel like you have to to get a word in. Sometimes you just have to start talking, but I never mean to talk over people. But since I have, perfect example is I did the daily drawing thing, right? And I started writing, and because I had no followers and because I wasn't trying to make a business out of it, I just wrote like personal stories. And then people wrote me personal stories back, and then they started commenting on, like, some people, no joke, commenting on every single post. I wrote these posts in the middle of the night. Like, literally, I would post them around 11:30 p.m. my time. People would like them that night, comment on them. I'll tell you a couple, just to like give proof. There is a woman named Bethany Hissong, or Hissong, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Damian Williams, Matt Detroit. There's so many of these people that every single time they would share personal parts about their life. They would encourage me. They would like things.
Yeah,
and
cool.
I got way more interaction than I do on my, almost 10,000 people on my retro supply site. And it's not because those people aren't as good. It's just because we're sharing back and forth. Those people are my friends now. But I'm not trying to sell them anything. We're just like friends.
Yep. Yeah.
It's so much better, right?
Oh, well, it's definitely more emotionally fulfilling, and it makes me want to do it in other parts of my business, like retro supply.
Yeah, for sure. And I can't say enough. Like you had your 100th daily drawing challenge, and I read through all the comments, and you got like 40 plus comments with people just being so like congratulating you, being so warm, friendly. You can tell they followed the whole journey. They're all like, yeah, we're proud of you, like, keep it up, like, you're amazing. Like, that's exactly what we're talking about. So it isn't that you need to be some world famous like designer rock star. Like, I know you have a established following already, but this daily drawing thing, it was a new profile, had a few hundred people following along, and the percentage of them who really got involved and really cared was unbelievably high.
It was shocking
to what it would normally be.
It was shocking. And I mean, people told me stories about having kidney stones. People told me stories about like their struggles with their children, about addiction, about something. I mean, we literally had the kind of conversations you sit around and have coffee and talk about.
Yeah. And so for everyone listening who is just posting out to a tumbleweed right now, that's what I wanted this episode to be about. And for the record, like, I do actually, like, I really, really appreciate you guys shouting out about design cuts and the new show and stuff, but we've never been a show to pitch. And I just want to make it super clear to the listeners, like, this was not intended to be a pitch fest, far from it. And these are the kind of conversations we would have before we did the show a lot of the time. And they're often the conversations we have before the show starts, just trying to help each other out. And it just happened that today we were like, should we just stop talking about this and record it and then continue the conversation?
We were wasting too much time just talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. So we had two like more design orientated topics that we're going to be covering in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, this is a kind of a fly on the wall episode, if you will, where it is just the four of us chatting about this stuff rather than thinking about who it's going to reach. So I hope it is helpful to the listeners. But I just know, like, we hear so much about no one cares about my work when I put it out there. I feel disillusioned by the number of likes I'm getting. This is really common stuff. So I hope, like, everything we're talking about today will be helpful. And I don't know, what do you guys think? Like, what would the message be for the people out there?
Could you say those two bits of advice you gave earlier on, just to repeat it? When you're DMing, I think this is where people are going to see growth in terms of depth rather than in breadth, if I got those right.
Reach. Yeah.
Because I think that's where the sort of secret lies. Because the reason why is because that then leads to all this. You know, you can ask questions like, "Oh, what should I be?" You know, like you say, "What should I be posting? What would you buy from me?" You know.
Okay, so for all the people listening who have a smallish following, 50 people, 200 people, 400 people, whatever it might be, set aside some time, 10 people a day, 20 people a day, and direct message every single one of them with a genuine, authentic, thank you so much for following me and for following along with my work. I really appreciate it. And I would love to know like what you'd love to see from me / how I can help you. So would you prefer if I posted this kind of work or that kind of work? What kind of work would you find most inspiring? Is like, do you want to be learning stuff from my feed? Is there anything I can help like that? Or do you just like seeing pretty artwork? Or yeah, you get the point.
And what was the other one?
That was it. That was 2.
No, that was it.
Oh yeah, commenting on, if appropriate, comment, and also find people who have a similar thing and comment on those. But don't put check out my feed.
Oh, please don't do that. It's the most off-putting thing on earth.
I have that too. People will come in my comments and just leave a link, and I'm just like, they'll be like, "Great!" ! And then like a link to their related site.
Yeah.
I'm just like, seriously, dude.
Yeah, it's so cheesy. Come on, people.
What would your mother think of this?
Something else you can do while you're doing that is answer other people's questions. So if no one's responded, like, like keep it simple, like, "Oh, what type of pen is this?" And you can answer that person. You can
actually answer them, yeah.
Because like you've given them some value because they want to know the answer to the question, and you haven't been, you've done nothing that's warrants like there's an ulterior motive other than, helping them out.
Yeah,
and so,
that's a cool one.
And sometimes I like, sometimes my bits get featured on other, art collection feeds, and I sometimes go through the comments, thanking people for their comments, answering. A lot of the time it's, what program is that on the iPad? And so I go through and just answer sort of simple questions, and people were like, "Oh, thank you very much." And so, you could get some more interactions through that.
Yeah, that's
what's wrong, Dustin?
Sorry, I don't know. That
just so giggly.
That just seemed funny to me that you're like, most of it's just what software is that on the iPad.
It's taken over as what pen is that?
So funny.
What app is that?
He just copy and paste, turn it off and turn it on again.
The thing that I like about this whole conversation is the whole point of doing all this. I mean, everyone's trying to make money so they can live, continue to be alive, pay for their families. But like, we do it because we want to be happy in the end, right? And this is accessible to anybody. You don't have to have 100,000 followers. You could have 10, you could have 0, and you could just start doing this. And almost instantly, your happiness is going to go up. Your fulfillment's going to go up. You don't need any special credentials. No one needs to give you permission or anything. You could do it right now. Like, I'm literally thinking to myself, I can go do this right now when we get done with this, and I'll probably like end the day a little happier. And it'll probably result in like more business.
So if you message people and say, "I really appreciate you, thanks, what can I do to help you?" You're not going to get people writing back being like, "How dare you, you scumbag." Like, they'll write back and be like, "Yeah, like, dude, you're awesome and keep it up." Like, you get.
But if
nice
they do say
back.
that, you need to get rid of that person.
Yeah.
And this, if we all go away and do it, then we could do another one where like a recap thing of, doesn't have to be a whole episode, but it can be one where we do little bits of, and say our experiences of what has happened when we've done that. And maybe also other people can do it as well, and we can hear from them, like with the challenges, doing like the 100-day challenge or however many days, just getting feedback of what has gone on to encourage others to do.
I like that. Yeah,
because the problem with us is that because we've got like a little bit of a name for ourselves, it's hard to do the beginning bit.
Although I'm doing the beginning bit right now. on
Yeah, but you've got
Instagram.
a
Yeah.
name for yours. People know, even, you've got your successful design cuts and stuff like that. But from starting from complete scratch, you've only just set up an Instagram account. You've never had it before.
Okay, yeah.
That sort of thing. People who, and a designer as well, who is just starting out. They've just set up shop. They want to grow. So it'd be really good to hear what people within that situation have found by
and
DMing
the
others,
newbies.
interacting, commenting, what has happened, whether it's grown or not, whether it's they've got, some good things back from them.
Okay, so I've got a challenge on the back of that. And well, this is your idea, and I love the idea. But in the same way that people have been tagging us, hashtag honest designers with their daily challenges, tag us. Like, I would love for some of the listeners to do the thing of messaging their fans and their followers and hopefully get some responses back and get into some positive conversations, start geeking out about art or whatever it might be, and then screenshot that conversation, post it on your profile and tag us in it, being like, this is so cool. I'm like, basically becoming friends with one of my followers, and just putting that out there as like, this is a nice thing to do. It feels right. And tag us in there. And I would love to see those interactions happening and just the positivity that comes back from it.
Yeah, definitely.
Or better yet, do a call and then take a picture of yourselves together and show us the picture of you talking. That'd be so awesome.
That'd be cool.
Nice.
A fake high five through Skype.
So hold on. Shall we? We did this before with the movie. Dustin, you mentioned the movie with John and Cusack, I think, and I think it was Julie Meredith who won, which is awesome. So congratulations, Julie. I would love to do another contest with this. So I'm not going to say the first person, but we'll pick one person, if that's cool with you guys, where out of the four of us, we give away a product which is, let's say, less than $30 in value, but that that's most of our products. And so that includes products from Dustin, Ian, Lisa, and then the original Design Cuts products as well in our marketplace. And we will pick someone who has got a response back from a follower, like they've got into a conversation, they've done the thing, they screenshotted it, they posted it on their profile, they've hashtagged honest designers, and we will go and pick a winner. And so not only will you have done an awesome thing, got to know a follower, and got positivity back, but you will get a free product.
Woohoo! Nice.
Something we could also, like a before and after. I was just thinking about how could you do a before and after of this? And if they do, actually, what you can do on Instagram now is the stats page can show, if I can't remember which bit on it, but it shows like your interaction rather than just, you could take a picture of your followers because that defeats the object. But look at like your interactions. I think there must be. If there is, they could take a photo of that before, then try all the DM stuff and see if that, and then it's like those weight ones, like you losing weight. The before and after,
or the classic, like, if you don't love me at this, you don't deserve me at this. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
If you don't love me with an empty inbox. So that was it. Fly on the wall this week. As promised, we'll be back we've got some really, really like super design orientated stuff for the next couple of weeks. So regular programming will be resumed, but I really hope people give some of this stuff a go, and I do think it's super just important for getting over a lot of this anxiety around our creativity and our social image and all the rest of it, and just getting into the positive side of building a fan base around your work. So I really hope people can take something from it, and we will see you right here next week. Bye from us.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that you'll consider being part of this new Honest Designers Challenge by proactively starting to build a fan base around your work. If you're interested in learning more about this kind of thing, then I hope you'll message me on Instagram at TomRossMedia. I look forward to hearing from you. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes. We always appreciate every single review that we receive and, of course, read every one of them. Thanks so much again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.